Did you know that for most of human history, people didn't sleep through the night? They had a first sleep and a second sleep. What changed? What happened to that rhythm? And what might it tell us about how humans were meant to rest? So, long before electricity, when the world was darker, quieter, and slower, people could drift off soon after dusk, then wake up again around midnight. What did they do in those silent hours? They talked, prayed, wrote, shared a quiet drink, or simply sat in thought before returning to bed till dawn. This forgotten rhythm reminds us that the way we sleep today is not the only way humans were meant to rest. The European ancestors lived by the light of candles, oil lamps, and the moon. The night had two halves, with a waking pause in between, and it suited the rhythm of their bodies and the world. As we explore this history, we'll travel from candlelit Europe to ancient China, where scholars studied by moonlight or even by jars of fireflies. We'll see how comfort, light, and culture shaped what people thought good sleep meant, and what we may have forgotten and lost since the arrival of electricity and the Industrial Revolution. Maybe our bodies still remember that gentler rhythm, a time when night and sleep were not one long blackout, but included a breathing space between two sleeps. Today, let's rediscover that story together. In pre industrial Europe, sunset was the real clock. Once darkness fell, families gathered by the fireplace. Candles were precious, so evenings were short and soft. People went to bed very early, not because they were lazy, but because daylight ruled life itself. Historical records, letters, even court documents from the 15th to the 18th century mentions first sleep and second sleep. The first sleep began not long after dusk, lasted 3 or 4 hours, and was followed by a quiet waking, often for prayer, reflection, or gentle conversation. The second sleep carried people into dawn. There was no sense that waking up in the middle of the night meant something was wrong. It was simply normal and natural, a breathing space between two dreams. People didn't see it as a problem to be fixed, but as time to slow down. Many use those quiet hours for reflection, quiet talk, prayer, to write a few lines by the candlelight. Night was not wasted time. It was a pause for gentler living, calm, thoughtful, forgiving of interruption. In ancient China, nights followed the rhythm of the night watches known as geng, five divisions of night marketed by drums or bells. The Chinese system later influenced neighboring cultures, including Japan, which adapted it to temple customs. Scholars studied between the stillness of these watches. My mother once told me that when electricity was rare, students preparing for the imperial exams used fireflies that they collected in jars to light up their text. A story that's so vivid, it stayed with me to this day. Whether it's folklore or true, it shows how precious the night once was, not just sleep, but for thought. Before modern housing, sleep was social. Even in my grandfather's shop house, where the extended family lived, children, siblings, and cousins, they slept together in a large hall. During the day, the canvas beds were folded up to make space for meals and work. In Europe, too, the shared bed was normal. Inns charged by the space, not the room, and several travelers might share a mattress. The idea of privacy came later, with more rooms, more furniture, and more individual comfort. Today, we take comfort for granted. Spring mattress, donors, temperature control. But comfort, long ago, once meant proximity and company. You can almost imagine the heartbeat and the breathing of others lulling people back into that second sleep. Even in Australia, First Nations cultures sleeping together near the fire had social and spiritual meaning. For Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, night was a time of storytelling and connection with the dreaming. Sleep wasn't only rest, it was part of belonging, part of community. Everything changed with artificial light. Gaslight appeared in European cities in the late 1800s, and by late 19th century, electric bulbs began to fill homes. Suddenly, the night stretched longer. Shops stayed open. People read, worked, and socialized late into the night. Sleep was then squeezed into one single stretch, not because the body wanted it, but because society worshipped productivity. And once the world could light up the night, who wanted two sleeps anymore? In the East, the change was gentler. China and Japan adopted light later, keeping cultural pauses, naps, rest hours, and evening tea. But the direction was the same, a move from natural rhythm to clock rhythm. When the clock became master, rest became a problem to fix instead of a rhythm to follow. Today, we glorify sleep efficiency. Smartwatches, which I haven't got usually, fitness bands, phone apps, they rate, record, and rank our rest as if sleep were a competition. We track it, compare it, and worry about it. But maybe our ancestors knew something we've forgotten, that wakefulness at night isn't always a problem. It might be an echo of an ancient pattern that pause between first sleep and second sleep is normal. If you can't sleep, it's okay to rest your mind instead. You can meditate, pray, or let your thought just drift, the way the indigenous Australians describe as entering dreaming. There's wisdom in that, to rest even when you're awake, to stay serene and be kind to yourself. Sleep will return when it's ready. So when someone says sleep tight, what do they really mean? How did this expression come about? Long ago, rope beds were tightened to keep the mattress firm. Sleep tight began as a practical advice and became a wish for safety and comfort. But our nights were never meant to be tight, rigid, or continuous at all cost. They were softer, more forgiving, and sometimes in one piece, sometimes in two. People accepted those natural breaks as normals, not as signs that something was wrong. The way we rest may change, but the need for peace never does. What matters most isn't a perfect score on your sleep app. It's the rhythm we keep, the calm we practice, and the kindness we show ourselves when the night feels long. If you found your own nighttime rituals, or remember how your parents spoke about sleep, share them below. We all rest differently, but we can still learn from one another. And in the next episode, we'll explore how modern science is helping us rediscover those natural rhythms and how light, temperature, and timing quietly shape the way we rest.